Hello everyone and welcome to yet another video on the channel. Today is going to be a very nerdy affair and I have taken my co-host Ewan as a hostage for this situation, and this is basically what I really enjoy about cycling, the achievements in the races. So we're going to talk about headline four of the most hardest achievements yet to be done in some instances in cycling, and then some of the subcategories that are being closest to the records. So Ewan, how do you feel about achievements in cycling, and is there anything that kind of springs to mind when people say that?
We recently just talked on the channel about the Triple Crown, only been done twice in history by Eddy Merckx and Stephen Roche. That's probably the pinnacle of cycling, a rainbow jersey, a Maglia Rosa and a Maillot Jaune. But today we're going to be breaking that wall and talking about some more big achievements, winning all the monuments, for example, winning the Tour de France and the Giro in the same year, for example. All big feats in the world of cycling that are very, very tough to get.
So the first achievement that we're going to talk about is winning all the Grand Tours, so the Vuelta, the Giro, and the Tour de France, all in the same season. This was something that was spoken about back in 2010. So this was when Alberto Contador signed with the Saxo Bank team. Bjarne Riis actually said Alberto Contador was the only rider at the time who would be able to do this amazing achievement. Of course, that didn't come to pass. In 2011, he won the Giro and then placed fifth at the Tour de France that year, where Cadel Evans won. So yeah, no one's actually won all three Grand Tours in the same season. That might be very hard to fathom as well, because Eddy Merckx and the riders in that era, they kind of rode all through the season. So that's kind of why he stacked up all those wins, because they were competing against the same guys week after week. But with the sport being so specialized, do you think this will ever be achieved, in your opinion, Ewan, now?
No, I don't think it could really. I think Giro is so competitive on its own level now that it's hard enough to go for a Giro Tour double. In recent years, we've seen people try. Contador couldn't crack it. Tom Dumoulin couldn't crack it. Neither could Froome, one of the best Grand Tour riders of our generation. So it's going to be so tough. And you have to bear in mind, through history, the Vuelta used to be in the springtime, which made it even more difficult. But if it's going to happen within our current crop of riders, I think Tadej Pogacar is going to be the man to do it. But quite honestly, it's such a feat that I think it's almost unappetizing for anybody to do it. It's 90 days of properly competitive racing day after day.
So in terms of riders in the past, Eddy Merckx, he actually won 4 Grand Tours in a row. He won the 1972 Giro, then he won the 1972 Tour, and then the Vuelta a España in 1973, and that was what you were talking about with the Vuelta being in the springtime. And then he went on to win the 1973 Giro that year as well. In terms of modern day cyclists who have come close to that, Israel Start of Nations, Chris Froome, back in 2017, won the Tour de France in 2017, then won the Vuelta 2017, and then the Giro d'Italia in that spectacular fashion in 2018. Yeah, just staying with this record for a bit longer, I'm completely going to nerd out here. But in terms of winning it in a career, there's been numerous riders: Alberto Contador, Vincenzo Nibali, Chris Froome, Bernard Hinault, Eddy Merckx, Felice Giamondi, and of course Jacques Anquetil as well. So there is a crop of riders who are in this very elite group that won all Grand Tours through their career, and for sure we're going to see one of the Slovenians enter this elite group as well in the years to come. And then we go down another step in a way. There's a lot more riders who have won 2 Grand Tours in the same year. So that's the combination, whatever combination, the Giro and the Vuelta, the Giro and the Tour, or the Tour and the Vuelta. And of course, the Tour and the Vuelta was the last one we saw with Chris Froome back in 2017. And then Alberto Contador back in 2009 actually won both the Giro and the Vuelta in the same year, because Astana was snubbed for the Tour de France that year. And Pantani was, of course, the last rider to do the Tour de France Giro d'Italia double that so many riders have tried to replicate back in 1998.
Well, moving outside of Grand Tours, let's head to the monuments. There's 5 big classics in the year. There's only been 3 riders who've actually won all 3: Milan-San Remo, the Ronde van Vlaanderen, Paris-Roubaix, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and the Giro di Lombardia. Those riders are Rick van Looy, Eddy Merckx, and Roger de Vlaeminck, all of which are Belgian, which is quite an interesting statistic. The man who's won the most, in fact, is Eddy Merckx, who's won 19 in total. He's won 7 Milan-San Remos. He holds the record for that one, and he also holds the record for the most Liège-Bastogne-Liège one. In fact, We do have a rider in our current crop that is close to winning all 5 Grand Tours. Philippe Gilbert has 4 different monument victories. The only one he's missing out on is Milano-San Remo, which is surprising because Milano-San Remo is the one that's most suited to him. If you think about who he is as a rider, only recently has he taken to the cobbles when he won Paris-Roubaix and the Ronde van Vlaanderen in 2017 and 2019. So, Scott, do you think Gilbert is the one to do it? Can he enter this list of 3 Belgians and make it a Belgian foursome?
Well, seeing as in our 2021 predictions video, I predicted him a bit older now. He hasn't really got that kick, and the Poggio isn't hard enough for him to get away from a lot of the other riders who potentially can match his kick now. If the Poggio was the Mur de Huy, Philippe Gilbert would have definitely won this race a few times because he's also a very good descender.
Yeah, but then Philippe Gilbert does remind me sometimes of Julien Alaphilippe. The way he rides, he's quite similar. They've both got a good kick on them. So I'm surprised that Gilbert hasn't been able to crack this race, seeing as Alaphilippe has cracked it on multiple occasions. There have been some riders, though, who've won 3 monuments in 1 year. I'm looking towards Eddy Merckx yet again. He's the only man to have done it. He's done it 4 times. However, Paris-Roubaix is the only race to not be a part of this winning trio. So, Scott, do you think Paris-Roubaix is too difficult to win nowadays, on top of winning all these other big monuments?
Well, what is it like George Hincapie said? It's not about having good luck in Paris-Roubaix, it's about not having bad luck. And I think that's basically the big factor. You can be in the best form you want, but if you hit the wrong cobblestone or have a puncture in the wrong sector of the race and the race just disappears up the road, then you'll never catch it again. Or even like what happened with Tor Husov, where he had his teammate up the road. He was in the form of his life. He didn't want to attack because his teammate was up the road winning that race. So yeah, Paris-Roubaix is always a lottery in my opinion.
When we look towards winning Paris-Roubaix and the Ronde van Vlaanderen, it's been accomplished by a fair handful of people. Most recently by Fabian Cancellara and Tom Bonen throughout the last decade. But interestingly enough, the only 2 countries to achieve have been Swiss riders and Belgian riders. Switzerland have had 2 riders do it, Heinrich Zutter and Fabian Cancellara. And the Belgians have had Romain Heysels, Gaston Rourbray, Raymond Ompanis, Fred de Bruyne, Rick van Looy, Roger Flamik, Peter van Bettegem, and Tom Bonen.
I mean, that wouldn't be a welcome statistic for a certain Dutch rider, Mr. Van der Poel.
But that would be a problem for Mr. Van der Poel because he's actually born in Belgium.
Speaking about monuments again, but not completely monuments, only 1 monument this time in the form of this triple race hat trick that we've not seen achieve that much. I am, of course, speaking about the Ardennes Classics in the form of Amstel Gold, Flèche Wallonne, and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which is usually in the same week. And that's what makes this quite a tricky achievement, because if you do well in Amstel, people will look at you in Flèche Wallonne, and then equally, if you win both those races, you're definitely a marked man in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. And this has actually been achieved twice. First of all, by, I think he's still racing, David Rebellin, who is, I think, 48 now. Is he 48? Yeah. He did that achievement back in 2004 when Ewan didn't even exist, probably. But yeah, this was, of course, replicated by Philippe Gilbert back in 2011 when he had that amazing season with Lotto Soudal, which was kind of his hurrah before he went to BMC Racing. And do you think this achievement would actually be done ever again? Last year, in 2019, we saw Alaphilippe and Fuglsang were very competitive over the 3 races. Of course, they looked at each other a bit too much in Amstel Gold, so Mathieu van der Poel did that heroic, amazing finish. And then Flèche Wallonne, Alaphilippe and Fuglsang kind of followed each other all the way up the Mur de Huy, and then finally Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Julien Philippe cracked and Fuglsang, he kind of took advantage. But Alaphilippe looked like he won it in 2020, or well, apart from his deviation in the sprint and relegation as well. But if he had been like that, and also the fact that we should include as well is the Philippe Gilbert finish was very different to the finish we have now in Liège-Bastogne-Liège. I don't like the change.
No, I was just about to mention it would have been easier in 2011, seeing as Amstel Gold finished on the Kouberg, an uphill punchy climb. La Flèche Wallonne finishes on the Mur de Huy, a punchy climb, and Liège-Bastogne-Liège used to finish on the Côte d'Anse, another punchy finish. It's almost 3 replicable finishes. Nowadays, it's very different. Amstel Gold's a very different beast. So is Liège-Bastogne-Liège. it's not quite the same beast, and that I think is shown in the recent results. You have completely different winners across all three races, and I think that's going to be the case for years to come. It's too difficult to win all three nowadays, but it's a very intense week of racing as well. You have to get everything right, and many riders also don't enter all three. We've got to factor that in as well.
So now we come to our last achievement, one that we were very excited about when we were thinking about it before starting this video and when we were actually commentating in the Worlds, winning both the World Championships. So I'm talking about, of course, the road race and the time trial. And this feat, well, it's very special because you're showing that you're basically the strongest rider at that World Championships. It has happened in the juniors and under 23s, of course, but it's never happened at the elite road race. And we should just point out that the first time trial championships, well, the first time the world's time trial was included was back in 1992 when it was won by Chris Boardman of the UK. So, Ewan, what do you feel about this achievement? Has there been anyone who's been close to achieving this feat?
Well, this year, of course, we had Wout van Aert, double silver medalist at the UCI World Championships in Imola. We've come close, though. 1995, when we went to Colombia for the World Championships, Miguel Indurain actually won the time trial before getting a silver medal in the road race. But I think for this, you do really need quite the phenomenon. We have a couple of GC guys at the moment who are very good time trialists, as well as one-day races. I'm thinking of Primož Roglic and Remco Evenepoel and Tadej Pogacar for that fact. But Wout van Aert, I think, is the man at the moment who's close enough to get it. One person I'm surprised about who's never come close is Fabian Cancellara. He's never contended in the road race for a world championship, which is a very interesting thing if you think about it. Kwiatkowski is road world champion. He's a brilliant time trialist. He could have both in the same career, but it's so difficult because the UCI World Championships are a classics race and you don't have sort of breakaway guys going off there. But I'm sure people will claim that Filippo Ganna will win the road race in years to come.
All right, so that's basically it for this video. Let us know down in the comments what you think would be the hardest achievement. Don't say win all the Grand Tours and all the monuments in 1 year. That would be completely crazy. And as always, make sure to subscribe and we will see you next time as always. So it's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from you.